The NBA world blew up Wednesday afternoon with one of the biggest blockbuster trades in league history. In a 4-team trade that sent 8-time All-Star and former league MVP James Harden to the Brooklyn Nets and brought Victor Oladipo, Dante Exum, Rodion Kurucs, and 4 unprotected future first-round picks, along with 4 pick swaps to the Houston Rockets. This trade came hours after James Harden bashed the Rockets during a post-game interview after their second consecutive loss to the Los Angeles Lakers, saying that the Rockets are simply not good enough and that the situation in Houston is unfixable.
We're just not good enough. We don't obviously chemistry, talent-wise, just everything, and it was clear. Like I said, these last few games.
While Harden is a once-in-a-generation type player, he was a cancer to the Rockets ever since the 2020 offseason, as he went out of his way daily to express that he did not want to be part of Houston's organization. This demoralized the entire Rockets organization because having your franchise player not buy in or really seem to show any care for the team holds the rest of the team back in a major way. So it was definitely time for the Rockets to move on from Harden, but one of the big questions that arose from this blockbuster trade was the move of flipping Caris LeVert for Victor Oladipo. This move was a big head-scratcher to many, considering LeVert is younger and has more upside than Oladipo. But besides that, Houston did an incredible job to recover and acquire several assets after Harden seemingly tanked his value with his poor play and antics. The Rockets didn't snag a potential franchise cornerstone such as Ben Simmons, but they got a tremendous package of picks, and with these picks, the Rockets will gain a steady and fresh influx of young talent over the next decade. As for Houston, Oladipo is obviously the biggest piece, but before we try to make sense of bringing in Oladipo and going for a large package of picks over the 24-year-old All-NBA Ben Simmons, and looking at the future of the Houston Rockets, welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name's Combo and I produce high-quality NBA-related videos weekly. If you're into that type of thing, make sure to subscribe and hit the like button so you can keep up with all of the latest in the NBA. But enough of that, let's get into the Houston Rockets' future. Trading away Harden meant the Rockets were essentially throwing any hopes of being legitimate title contenders in 2021, considering how stacked the West is. And while Caris LeVert would probably help Houston win a few more games than Victor Oladipo will this season is already a wash in terms of the Rockets' title hopes. Even though most people would prefer to have LeVert on their team over Oladipo because of LeVert's upside, let's not forget that Oladipo is a 2-time All-Star and currently averaging 20 points per game to go along with 5.7 rebounds and 4.2 assists. He also has been a part of 3 different teams in his career, so he has the experience of finding to fit in with a new team. This should make Oladipo's transition to developing chemistry and gelling with his new teammates in Houston a lot easier. Oladipo also provides John Wall with a nice backcourt running mate, and the two should fit nicely together. With Wall, Christian Wood, and now Oladipo in Houston, the Rockets should at least remain competitive throughout the remainder of the 2020-2021 season, and possibly even make the playoffs as a 7 or 8 seed, though anything beyond that is highly unlikely. Another positive to bringing in Victor Oladipo is that the 6'4" guard is on an expiring contract and will be a free agent in this upcoming offseason. This gives general manager Rafael Stone a lot more flexibility than he would have had if the Rockets held on to Caris LeVert, who's locked up through 2023 and owed a total of just over $36 million over the next 2 seasons. If Stone ends up feeling like Oladipo is a good fit in Houston, the two can try to work out a long-term extension to keep Oladipo in Houston for the long run. But more likely than not, Oladipo will be traded again before the trade deadline or leave Houston in free agency, which both would be beneficial for the Rockets. If the Rockets decide to trade Oladipo before the deadline, Houston will be able to bring in more draft picks and future assets, which paired with the boatload of picks the Rockets received for Harden, will create a bright future in Houston. If the Rockets go the other way and hang on to Oladipo for the remainder of the 2020-2021 season, and then lose him in the free agency, Houston will have enough cap space to dish out a max contract in the offseason if they desire to. So either way, Oladipo gives the Rockets much more flexibility regarding the future than LeVert would have ever given them. The next piece of the trade we have to discuss is bringing in the several first-round picks over trading for a 24-year-old Ben Simmons. If the Rockets really wanted to get a future cornerstone and franchise player for James Harden, then they could have very easily have. They could have gone for the Simmons trade, but while Houston did not receive a player that can carry the team for years to come, this trade package fixed the Rockets' greatest need: draft capital. Coming to the 2020-2021 season, the Rockets' future looks shameful as they shipped 2 first-round picks and 2 pick swaps to Oklahoma City as a part of the deal that brought Russell Westbrook to Houston. The real reason Rafael Stone made this trade was because of the 4 future unprotected first-round picks and the 4 draft swaps that the Houston Rockets received, one of the biggest draft hauls in NBA history. which is awfully impressive for a rookie general manager. Overall, while the Rockets' title hopes for the next few seasons are little to none, Houston now joins the Thunder and Pelicans as teams that control the draft for the next 5 years. So the rebuild in Houston could be much quicker than it would have been if they kept on to Harden and let him walk away as a free agent in 2022. Now that we have talked about all the pieces Houston received in this blockbuster trade, where does this leave them for the future? Well, to be honest, they're in one of the best possible spots they could be in, considering the antics James Harden pulled. They not only got the draft capital needed for a complete overhaul of any organization, they also held on to a couple stars that can help instill a winning culture in Houston. This, to me, is the most important takeaway of the trade, because many teams fall to this recent trend of tanking when it comes to finding an organization's next superstar. Some examples of this tactic, as of right now, would be the New York Knicks, the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Atlanta Hawks a couple years ago. But Houston won't have to succumb to this. The team still has a solid big three consisting of newly acquired Victor Oladipo, John Wall, and DeMarcus Cousins. And if this was 3 years ago, we'd probably be praising the Rockets with one of the best big threes in the league. But a lot of injuries have plagued these stars as they are still trying to navigate their way back into the NBA stardom. Regardless, it has the potential to be very solid. Wall has already played great in his first season back after missing almost the last 2 years due to injury. With Wall as the playmaker, Oladipo could fit really well in the backcourt as the go-to scorer in H-Down. Newly acquired Christian Wood also has been dominant in his first year in Houston as he looks to be one of the bigger new big men in the league. And with Eric Gordon and PJ Tucker both still under contract, Houston can compete if they want to this year. The only problem is these are really just placeholders for the time being. They have the pieces to continue winning, maybe not at the rate they were at with Harden, but enough to make the playoffs every year. With a winning culture and a couple of vets, the draftees that are lucky enough to fall to the Houston Rockets will enter with the motive to win and learn under the vets. The Rockets have created an ideal situation to foster their youth while also winning games. With that being said, regardless of where the Rockets end up in the standings this year, they have eliminated the toxic cloud hanging over their organization, James Harden.
Harden is showing you he wants out in every single way, but how does he look in doing that? Actually, right now, really bad.
First-year head coach Stephen Silas and his players can finally move on and focus on improving at their craft of basketball. And players like John Wall, DeMarcus Cousins, and Christian Wood, who have done nothing bad to the organization, can finally play freely without Harden's antics overshadowing their every game. Not only that, but Houston might finally see a different style of play than the one that they have gotten used to over the past couple of years, of straight ISO ball. With more fluidity in their game, I wouldn't be surprised if one of the players on Houston ended up having a career year. But if you got this far in the video, I just want to thank you and ask you to hit the like button as it would help me a great deal. Until next time.